All right, so today we learned about our three basic trigonometric identities. We learned about our three basic trigonometric identities. All right, and the three of those were sine, cosine, and tangent, and these helped us figure out the sides, or these will help us figure out the sides of right triangles when they are not our special triangles. So just a reminder that sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. And I paused because I'm using my mnemonic that I talked about in my head, SOHCAHTOA. Okay? So, with these, we learned that with each of these identities, we can place this side over this side, and it will give us whatever our angle is. Okay, so just for an example of that, in this right triangle, if I was trying to find the angle theta, and I was given this side and this side, okay, and I was not given this side, I can then decide which identity I'm going to use. Well, the first thing I have to do is see which two sides do I have. I have my opposite and I have my adjacent. I have no idea what the hypotenuse is. So if I wanted to figure out what this angle was, well, if I don't have my hypotenuse, I can't use this one, I can't use this one, so I'll have to use this one, okay? So the tangent of theta would give me opposite, which is 16. Remember, it's the angle directly across from your, it's the side directly across from your angle, and adjacent, which is 8. So tangent of theta would be 2. All right. Say we had the same triangle, but this side is 16 and this side is 32, and we don't know this side. Well, now I can't use tangent because I don't have my adjacent to theta. So I'm going to have to use my opposite and my hypotenuse. And if you look, the identity we can use with opposite and hypotenuse is my sine. So I'm going to say the sine of theta equals my opposite, which is 16, over my hypotenuse, which is 32. So all we're doing is taking these identities that we learned in class today, and we are using them to find out each of these. Sine of theta equals 16 over 32. Tangent of theta equals 2. I decide which identity I'm going to use based on which sides I have. So let me do one with cosine. All right, in this triangle, I only have my adjacent. Remember that adjacent means right beside it, and I have my hypotenuse. So I can't use sine because I don't have my opposite. I can't use tangent because I don't have my opposite, so I'm going to have to use cosine. And cosine is my adjacent over my hypotenuse. So that's our three identities, exactly what we were doing in class, except we're having to decide which trigonometric identity we will use. Alright, so that's good and all, but that really doesn't tell us a lot. Okay, so we know how to use our identities, we know how to put one side over another side, But what does that mean in the grand scheme of things? And this is what it means. Say that I had a 90-degree triangle, and I know that this angle, theta, equals, let's say, 28 degrees. Okay? I know that that angle is 28 degrees. And I know that this side is, let's say, 4, but I wanted to know what this side is. Okay? I cannot use the Pythagorean theorem here because I do not have this side. So it doesn't help me at all. I only have one side. So in order to solve for this side, I have to use one of my trigonometric identities. So our first step, let's identify what sides that we have shown here. Okay? So if this is the angle we have the opposite side, which is 4. And the side that we are trying to find is our hypotenuse, which we don't know what it is. So when I know that I have my opposite and I know that I have my hypotenuse, that means that I can use this trigonometric identity. Because I don't know my adjacent, so I can't use either of these. So I'm going to use my sine. So if sine of theta equals opposite over hypotenuse, and I know that theta, the angle theta, equals 28, I can plug 28 in right there. And I can also plug in my two values for opposite and for hypotenuse. So I know that my opposite is 4, and I don't know my hypotenuse. So all I've done is I've identified which sides I have and that I'm looking for. I've picked the equation that I'm going to use, and I've plugged in my values. And from this point, we're going to go to our calculator, which you can't see extremely well. How about now? Now you can see it. Okay, so when we're doing this, we're going to need to change our calculator into degrees because we are working with degrees. And when we are plugging in the degree of an angle into sine, tangent, or cosine, we have to change our calculator so that it knows what we're trying to do. So in order to do that, I go to Mode, and if you scroll down to right here, you can see where it's highlighted radian. We want to turn that into degrees. So now every time my calculator gets a number with its sign, it's going to know that I'm talking about degrees. Okay? So let's figure out what the sine of 28 degrees is. I'm going to click sine, which is right here. See a sine, cosine, and tangent. I'm going to click sine, and I'm going to plug in 28. And that gives me about 0.47. I want us rounding to 2 decimal places. All right, so we figured out that this side of our equation is equal to 0.47, and that this side is 4 over x, our opposite over hypotenuse. So now we need to solve for x. Here, x is being divided, so I'm going to multiply both sides by x. And then here, they're multiplied. So to get x by itself, I'm going to divide by 0.47. And when I plug that into my calculator, I get 8.51. That means that my hypotenuse, if this side is 4 and this angle is 28 degrees, that this side is going to be 8.51. So I found out which sides I had, which side I needed to find, what equation I would use. I plugged in my numbers, and then I solved for x. We can call this example 1 because I'm going to give you one more example. Okay? Example 2. Let's say that in this right triangle, this angle is 40 degrees. It's not special, it's not a 45, 45, 90. It barely misses the mark. And that I want to know this side, and I do know this side. Okay? So we're trying to find x, what side x is. So first step, let's figure out what sides we have here. So if this angle is 40, I don't have my hypotenuse, it's not labeled at all. I do have my adjacent, it's the angle, it's the side right next to my angle. So I can say that my adjacent is 2. And I do have my opposite. My side opposite my angle is the one that we're trying to find. So if I have adjacent and opposite, the identity that I'm able to use is tangent. I have opposite and adjacent. I can't use these two because I don't have my hypotenuse. So I'm going to say tangent of theta equals opposite over adjacent. That's the equation I'm going to use because that's what I have. And now I can plug in my values. Tangent of 40 degrees equals opposite, which is x, over adjacent, which is 2. And now we solve. So I grab my calculator. I say the tangent, and there's that glare again. I say the tangent of 40 equals 0.84, rounded to the nearest hundredth. And to get my x by itself, I need to multiply both sides by 2. So I'm going to multiply this side by 2, and I'm going to multiply this side by 2. So that means that this side would be 1.68. Now, if you look at my drawing, I literally just pulled these numbers out of my head. But if you look at my drawing, when I drew it, it looked like this side would be longer. But with these proportions, if we had a 40-degree angle and an adjacent side of 2, this would actually be our short side. So don't let appearances fool you. Go based off the numbers. So again, our procedure, we found what we had and what we didn't have. We figured out what equation to use. We plugged our numbers in. And using our calculator, we solved for x. Alright, now this lets me know when y'all make it to the end of my video, okay? You can go back as many times as you want. You can email me tomorrow. I'm shadowing Mr. Barchi, but you can email me. These are the 2 questions that I want you to work on tomorrow. The first one, I want you to tell me which identity would I use. If this is my theta, and I'm given this side and this side, which identity am I going to use? Sine, cosine, or tangent? And 2, I want you to solve for x. And I'm running out of time and I'm trying to beat the clock because it's about to cut me off. Solve for x using your identities.